All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Makar Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect to the nation of Israel. This is going to be a lesson which I'm going to entitle something along the lines of prophecies that we're still waiting for, or prophecies that we're still waiting to happen. And Lord will I end up doing more and more videos on this whole particular type of thing, right? But the first prophecy that I'm going to talk about is the mark, right? The MOTB, the thing that's mentioned in Revelation, the 13th chapter and the 16th verse, all right? Because that's one of the major prophecies that we're waiting for, which is by where a particular device is going to be implanted in people's hands or in people's foreheads, and it's going to be made mandatory to do this thing, all right? I'm just going to read a bit of this here. It says transhumanism. Transhumanism is a philosophical and intellectual movement which advocates for the enhancement of the human condition by developing and making widely available sophisticated technologies that can greatly enhance longevity and cognition. It also predicts the inevitability of such technologies in the future. So this is a whole doctrine that people have made, right, by where it involves humans having technology ingrained into their physiology, man. All right, and this is one of the beliefs that's being pushed out into the world that is going to cause for that MOTB to be made mandatory, man. Right, it's one of the things that's going to be pushed on the earth, along with the whole cashless thing, along with the Internet of Things, along with the Internet of Bodies. All right, which all of these are different beliefs that people can look up for themselves. Right, if you care, then you'll look it up, right? But all of these are different things that people are pushing that are going to cause for people to take this thing, man. All right, and let's go into prophecy, which is what this video is about, and let's see where this thing's mentioned, right? Because it's mentioned a few places in the book of Revelation, right? This is Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16, and he calls of all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their foreheads, so like to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So that's one place where it mentions this thing, and it's pretty much saying that no man's going to be able to buy or sell, which buying or selling pretty much accumulates being able to be a part of a society, right? The sellers would be the people that would run companies. They eventually they're not going to be able to sell goods if they're not ingrained in this system, man. Right? If they are not allowing for this technology, they're not going to be able to take part in that. All right? And the buyers will be people that are not going to be able to purchase items if they are not prepared to have this device in them either. It's going to soon be a thing where you can't play in Esau's world if you're not prepared to take these things. Just like how during the lockdown, there were certain times where they were saying to people, if you didn't take certain things, that you couldn't have access to certain things, man, which some people bought into that, but others didn't. This is Revelation chapter 14 and verse 9. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand. So it changes slightly from Revelation the 13th chapter, by where it says in the right hand, because it lets you know that there's not no getaway if you can't try and be slick and say, oh, well, I'll have it in my left hand then. No, you're not supposed to have it in either hand. You're not supposed to have it anywhere within your body, right? Because if you take this thing, well, then you're going to be destroyed, man. The Lord's going to destroy you. And I'm reading it right now, verse 10. The same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yahweh, which is poured out without mixture, into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. So you don't want to take this, man. All right, there's certain people that are going to take it. There's certain people that have already took it, and they're going to be destroyed when it's all said and done. All right, they're going to receive the lake of fire judgment, man, which is where it mentions in Zechariah the 14th chapter that your eyes are going to melt away in your sockets, and your tongue's going to melt away, and your tongue is going to melt away in your mouth, man, which I'll read it right now, in fact. Let me read it. This is Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 12. And this shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and the tongue shall consume away in their mouth. So this isn't a nice way to go, man. It's going to be very painful. It's going to be very painful, man. If you've ever been burned, the feeling of being burnt, the feeling of heat touching your skin for like 1 second, half a second, is horrible, man. If you've ever accidentally like burnt yourself with hot water or something like that, it's very painful, man. If you've ever burnt your hand on a cooker or burnt your hand on a hot pan, the effects of that are very harmful, man. And your skin changes after like holding that piece of thing for like a second or 2 seconds. So how much more melting via this, right? Now let me go back to the scriptures again and see where it mentions this again, man, because people are going to receive boils for taking this. So they're not going to be able to deny that they took it. This is Revelation chapter 16 and verse 2. And the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there was a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the, I'm not going to finish it, and upon them which worshipped his image. So people are going to have grievous sores, man, for taking it. They're going to have a grievous sore. That's going to be evidence that they gave in to Esau. And let me get another scripture. Because when you're taking this thing, it's not, although it might seem convenient, although it might seem like a good new piece of technology, whatever way you want to try and spin it, right? It's a thing that you shouldn't take, right? It's a thing that you shouldn't be doing, man. It's not a thing you want to do. You don't want to take this, all right? It's a deception. And at the end of it, you get destroyed. Despite how nice your life might seem when you've took it for that small, short period of time, at the end of it, you're going to be destroyed, man. This is Revelation chapter 19 and verse 20. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the MOTB, and them that worship his image. These both are cast alive into a lake of fire, burning with brimstone. So it's a deception, man. Like whatever method it is, it's going to be that they use to deceive each person that takes it. It's still a deception. And you can't say as an excuse, oh, I was deceived into taking it, so I shouldn't receive the judgment. Because the scriptures say that with him is strength and wisdom. The deceived and the deceiver are his. Right now, I'm going to go back to this and read a bit more. It says, transhumanist thinkers study the potential benefits and dangers of emerging technologies that could overcome fundamental human limitations, as well as the ethics. And one of the things that they're trying to use transhumanism for is immortality. They're thinking in their mind that they can use transhumanism to make a man immortal. When we that believe in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, we know that the only way to truly be immortal is to live a sin-free life, which comes through believing in Yahweh Shai, the Messiah, right? Which is then we're going to wait for the day that he returns and makes our vile body and changes our vile body like unto his glorious body, according to the working whereby he is able even to subdue all things to himself, like it says in Philippians, the 3rd chapter, the 20th verse to the 21st verse. And like how it also mentions the change and the overcoming of death in 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, right? And like how it mentions the new covenant in Ezekiel, the 8th chapter, and how it also mentions the new covenant in Jeremiah, the 31st chapter, and how it also mentions the changing of the mind and the changing of the body in Ezekiel, the 36th chapter, from the 24th verse to the 24th verse, and how it even also mentions the circumcising of the mind and of the heart in Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter. So this is not a thing that's only mentioned one part in the Bible, right? It's mentioned several places in the Bible of immortality and everlasting life. Even in Christians' favorite scripture, which they don't know the Bible, right? But in John 3:16, it also mentions everlasting life. Yet these Christians like to quote everlasting life so often about John 3:16, yet for some reason they don't understand that in order to get that, you would have to keep the law to properly receive everlasting life. But keeping of the laws comes through believing in Yahweh Shai, and being an Israelite, because then you receive the new covenant in that time when he comes to change men that was waiting patiently for him, right? And it also, one more scripture that mentions the changing of men and that we're going to be changed is first John the third chapter and the second verse, where it says something along the lines of, it's a blessing to be called the sons of God, and we don't know what we shall be, but we know that when we see him, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. And that's me paraphrasing it slightly, but it mentions us being changed, man, which this isn't the particular topic of this lesson, but it all goes in. It all matches into the truth of the scriptures being brought out. Let me carry on reading. It says, some transhumanists believe that human beings may eventually be able to transform themselves into beings with abilities so greatly expanded with the current condition as to merit the label of post-human beings. So they're thinking that they're going to be able to rid this MOTB, be able to change themselves so that they become more advanced than an everyday normal human being, man, which is not going to be, this is not going to be achieved by no heathens. This is something that's going to be achieved by the Israelites. Because in the scriptures it says, I have said that ye are gods, but ye shall die like men. But the day is going to come where we're going to be like gods that don't die like men. We're going to be above men, which we already are above men anyway, but it's going to be physically made known. It's going to be physically shown that we're above everybody else. It's going to be physically shown way more drastically the difference between the Israelite and anybody else. Whereas right now you can kind of see it, but a heathen might be able to steroid it up and then have the same strength as a Jake, you know? But the day is coming where just the fact that Israelite's going to be immortal is going to be a show that Israelite's way more advanced than anybody else, man. Now let me carry on reading. Let me read a bit more of this. It says, another topic of transhumanist research is how to protect humanity against existential risks, such as a nuclear war or asteroid collision, which they ain't going to be able to stop that nuclear war anyway, man, because that's coming. All right, that's something that Yahweh has said he's going to do, man, which is going to be what the punishment is going to be for anybody that takes the MOTB. In fact, they're going to be a victim of the flames that are going to be caused by a nuclear war. And the book of Malachi, the 4th chapter, mentions a day that shall burn like an oven, which again, for the sake of this lesson, I'm not going to go into. In fact, you know what? I will go into that because that matches up with Revelation 14, and it matches up with Zechariah. Let me read this one. This is Malachi chapter 4 and verse 1. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble, and the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith Yahweh of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. And that's that day. This is punishment is going to be received by everyone that takes the MOTB, man. All right? Anyone that's pretty much not of the elected nation of Israel is going to be a victim in some way by the nuclear war that Yahweh is going to cause to happen on the earth. Whether it's going to be they completely die in the flames in America, Babylon the Great, or whether it's that they receive radiation poisoning or something along those lines, man. They're going to be a victim in some way, and they're going to be on the earth still while a nuclear war is happening. Because America is going to be completely destroyed off the face of the earth, but some other places of the world are not going to be completely destroyed by the nuclear war, yet they're still going to be victims of the nuclear war. And down here is going to be very horrible, and you wouldn't want to be on earth during that time, man. Which is the reason why the elected nation of Israel is actually going to be taken up and out of the earth for a time being, while all of this stuff's going on. And a new version of the ark, just like how in the time of Noah there was an ark, this is going to be a new modernized version of the same thing, man. But except the ark, the chariots are going to be taking the elect out away from the earth for a time. Let me carry on reading a little bit more. It says, Julian Huxley was a biologist who popularized the term transhumanism in a influential 1957 essay. The contemporary meaning of the term transhumanism was foreshadowed by one of the first professors of futurology, a man who changed his name to FM 2030 in the 1960s. He taught new concepts of the human at the New School when he began to identify people who adopt technologies, lifestyles, and worldviews, transition or to post-humanity as transhuman. So Esau is thinking that he's going to be able to change and do his own version of transformation, like how the scriptures mentions being changed. But he's thinking he's going to be able to do it on the left-hand side through technology. Whereas we, as the Israelites, we believe that they were going to receive it through the Lord's hand, through him changing us into something greater than what we are now. I'm not going to read much more of this. People can look it up on the internet themselves. It's the input of transhumanism in the Wikipedia online, right? Just look up transhumanism on the internet, and it's pretty much the first thing that you'll see anyway. But yeah, I'm gonna end the lesson there, man. That's one of the prophecies that we're waiting for, the MOTB, which is the RFID implant, man. All right, and I'm gonna end the lesson there. All praises to Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, B'Shem Makar. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the nation of Israel. Shalom.